Hello everyone. What's up? What's up? How's everyone doing today? I've been doing Inktober. Ooh, nice. What does Inktober what do you need to do for Inktober? Lots of tentacles? Why do I keep going to sleep? I know why. One sec. I'm using as a pinup one. It's like one drawing a day, but I missed yesterday, so yesterday was a weekend. It's fine. Okay, yeah, everything's working. Yay. Unlike last time, it's like actually everything's gonna be borked. I didn't know until you mentioned it, but now it's working, so yay. My sound was borked on stream last week, so yeah. Windows. Always allowing to bork things up. Yeah. So now that I got the mic working and the computer audio on stream, you probably... OBS probably forgot your desktop audio. Double check your OBS settings for desktop audio. Later. As OBS has completely lost all my audio stuff. I sure don't want to do that. Yeah. You should be, you should be able to set your OBS to the desktop audio as whatever it is, whatever your default is, or even set it to the default. I sure should. Yeah. Amount of fencing I did, and then you forgot to check that. For half the stream, there was an echo. Yeah, but that was your it was picking up your Chrome, right? Yeah. So at one point it did have your computer audio, right? It just was in a messy loop, which is funny that it would that's not anything else. Yeah. Unless you have your music on a different audio track that it's not on your default audio. You can hear it through your ears. Yeah, I mean, your ears are tend to be what your sound, how you pick up sound. I mean, listen to your toes. Weird. Alien fin. Thought you were supposed to be a snail. Snails don't have toes. Yep, I have ears. But they don't have toes. Their whole bodies are the foot, right? your VTuber model is just gonna be one big foot. You'll get the feet fetishes at to your stream. My model would have to get so Nikki to show their feet, leggings, boots, shorts. Your model's supposed to be snail themed. You should be all like 1/3 Bigfoot. I should move my model over a bit. Neat. There we go. Means the throwing system will be off again, but me. Okay, so last week we started up with book chapters 1 and 2 of Woman Who Rides Like a Man. Last week, Elena got adopted into a Bazir tribe. I was gonna say shaman's tribe because I was just reading what was on screen. Bazir tribe. After they helped her out fighting some bandits, but the Bazir shaman does not like her and thinks she's the devil incarnate and wants her dead. And he has an evil sword to attempt to do so. Your Tozo's secret poppin'. What are you? I thought you were always like into catching all the kinks. Beep beep. Oh, I forgot to mention, the Alana series has like all new covers. I want to just show them off. You love the skull? Oh, thank you, Chewy. Welcome in. Me. Share. I copy link. Yes. Yeah, the anime covers. Else. They're so pretty. I want them, but right now they're kind of out of my budget right now. They're pretty. Yeah. I'm trying to be responsible with my money. I have to be. Well, okay. Okay. Yeah, I haven't done any other streams last week because I was kind of as much as I feel normal and okay, I get zonked out really easily, and then I just end up sleeping all day, and I slept all day today as well. But Monday evenings are my normal streams. So I'm kind of like, it's still kind of sort of tied into, and it's also the one that Foppin always reminds me about as well. So there's that as well. It's like, oh, it's Monday, right? It's that. What I need is people like chasing me, like, shouldn't you stream today? Shouldn't you stream today? God, fun to pick random book gifts. Yes. Shush, kitty. My cat Becca has escaped outside twice, and ever since the first time she's been wanting to go outside, but she won't settle on in a leash and halter. So it's like, leash and halter, I'll take you for a walk. I want to take you for walks, but she freaks out whenever she's attached to things. Isn't that right, Becca? Yeah. And now she's just yowling. She goes yowling through the house. It's like, I'm bored. I want to go outside. It's like, no. No, you're not allowed to go outside. Hello. Okay. So, let us start with book 3. Sorry, I just want to move something around. If it'll let me move it around. Good enough for now. Oh, come on. Now I'm not picking at my face. Lovely. Oh, come on. Really? Is it working? Is it working? Oh my gosh, it's working. Thank you. I'm thinking I might need a new phone, or them to look into the jack, because it's not like it's being like, yeah, I don't want to read through the jack anymore. It's like, no, the wireless one doesn't quite work well. I might need to start using the wireless one. Ah. Okay. Hello, Jushin Gobi. Welcome in. What's up? I hope you had a good Monday, even though most people's Mondays are lousy because they have to go back to work. True. Yeah. I would normally, but I've been on a sick leave after having a surgery at the beginning of the month. Well, mid-month in September, actually. It's almost been a month since then, but doctor gave me a month off, so I'm sleeping through it, really. Okay, we were about to start the reading, and when I just decided to move things around, and then everything borked. But now things seem to be working good. Let's get started before it breaks again. Heaven knows it probably might. I know I still need to set up all my screens, because it's... If I ever want a game on stream again, because this game screen is still borked, because I still haven't looked into it yet. Okay. And then just volume down a little bit in music. Chapter 3, Vizier Shaman. For a moment, Alana stared at the voice. Finally, she tried a weak grin. You're joking, of course. Oh yeah, right. At the chapter 2, the voice of the Vizier basically wants the king, Alana's king, to take on the role as the voice, so that the Vizier would stop fighting with the king. So like there won't be tribes that are against the king and tribes that are for the king, so it's like it'll just kind of like unite them all under the one banner type thing. Because he's dying and he wants to pass it on to him rather than someone else on the Vizier. Okay. I needed to remember that finally. Yeah. And remind all y'all. Because if I've forgotten, definitely will. You're the king. You are. At least that's what your name says. Welcome in. How are you doing today? What's up? I need to stop doing how are you. I'm more like doing like what's up, because people are more apt to do less than it's fine, I'm fine type things, because don't want to take things bring things down when maybe a lot of things aren't fine. I just say hello. But like I want to usually in reading streams I do lots of chatting, but if you're just hello, then it's just kind of like it's just like meh. But if you're like hello, I'm interested in you, please talk to me type thing. I'm trying to do better at small talk. I'm interested in you. Give me something to talk about. Yeah, you're fine. Okay, that's good. I am doing good. I slept all day, so I have a lot of energy now. I'm still healing from a surgery, so I overdid it over the weekend trying to unpack because we just moved as well. So this is like the second day of a second time streaming in a couple months because everything is piled up. Yeah. I mean, I was going down a true crime deep dive earlier. You were. Well, someone was napping. You were, Foppin', you were. And I mean, it was some good ideas in there, but that's a off-stream topic. It's a not safe for Twitch topic, not safe for work topic as well. But you were at school. You're thinking about all that when at school today, weren't you? cutting a person's hair and just cutting a person's hair is like, what if this happens? Sounds like the cat's going after the mouse. Toy mouse. Okay, here we are. For a moment, Elena stared at the voice. Finally, she tried a weak grin. You're joking, right? You're joking, of course. I've never been more serious. Elena shook her head. I think you had better explain it to me. Certain tribes have been at war with the king in the north for 2 generations, Muktab began. The cost has been great for both sides. Among our people, there is bitterness between those who accept your king and those who do not. And in the end, the Northern King must win. How do you know? Alana wanted to know. A small gift of prophecy is given to each voice, was the reply. Your king will win if you continue to fight, because this time the balance is weighed in his favor. Conquered, my people, our people now, will be driven from the desert that is mother and father to us. All those things that enable us to make war against the king and against the hillmen, who are our enemies, will be taken away. The tribes would be scattered. We'd be one people, no more. But if Prince Jonathan were to become the voice of the tribes, he would be king one day, a Bazir king. He would know us as we do ourselves. The tribes we call renegade would make peace, for none may war against the voice of the tribes. They will make peace, and the voice will bring them into Tartal without bloodshed. We must accept the king of the north. There is no other way, but we can do it so that we never forget who we are. Prince Jonathan is the key. With my passing, he will be the voice, and my people will be safe. Alana nibbled at her thumb, considering. Maybe John won't want to do it, she said at last. The position seems to carry a lot of heartache to me. Ali McDobb smiled. Jonathan was born to rule, as you were born to make your own way. If there is any way he can better govern his people, he will take it. I have watched him for years. He will not turn his back on such power. Reaching into his robe, he brought out a thick letter sealed with wax. Will you send this and the history to him, and let him make the choice? Alana took the letter. McTabb was right. John had to make the decision himself. I'll see that he gets it. Karam shook his head even as he pulled on his riding boots. I don't like leaving you right now, he protested for the 20th time. That Aknan ibn Nazir would feed you to the wolves as soon as look at you, and you're sending me back to Chorus? The sooner you ride to Chorus, the sooner you'll be back to look out for me, Alana said implacably. This is important. Keeping you safe from that old buzzard isn't? Karam demanded. You said that McTabb's sending a man with me? He's waiting with the pack horse now, Alana said, giving her friend an affectionate grin as they walked outside. I'll be alright. I have Faithful to look after me. Graham scowled at the black cat, who was trotting ahead. Some protection, he muttered. They halted, surprised to see Hakim Farrar waiting with the horses. The tall Bazir bowed. I am to ride with you, he said in response to the question on their faces. The voice has said it. Alana hugged Karam for a moment. He'll be back before you know it, she said gruffly. So leave. She watched the two men ride off, their pack horse trailing behind. Fingering the ember at her throat, she blinked, her watering eyes. "You're not alone," Faithful remarked. "You still have me." Alana picked the cat up and hugged him tightly. She wasn't crying simply because she felt lost without Graham. The gruff manservant would be with Jonathan soon, and she wouldn't. That's fine for you, Alana. The ordeal. She dropped through endless stretches of water, her lungs bursting for lack of air. She fought and fought, but she couldn't find her way to the surface. She opened her mouth to scream. She jerked awake, her mouth clamped shut so tightly that her jaws ached. It was forbidden to scream in the chamber of the ordeal. Faithful fell to the ground from her chest. It had been in his weight that made her sleeping mind remember that awful moment. But to yell her fury, she realized Faithful's tail and fur were erect. Keeping silent for a moment, she heard a rustle of movement, a soft click of hard objects striking each other gently. Carefully, Alana lifted her battle axe from her weapons rack and, moving soundlessly, she slid out the back of the tent, Faithful behind. She circled her home, a shadow among the camp's other shadows. Carefully, Alana lifted her... Ignore. A huddled figure was drawing designs before her door. She suddenly knew who it was and could guess what he was up to. Hefting the axe, she hurled it into the sand at Aknan Ibn Nazir's feet, then strode forward, the violet fire of her gift turning the scene into purple daylight. "Demon, I adjure thee, harm me not!" the old man screeched. "In the name of Mithras, be quiet!" Alana snapped as people ran out to their tents, armed with swords and spears. "Now you've awakened everyone." Recognizing her at last, Ibn Nazir gasped in fury. "I will cast you out," he yelled. "I will cleanse our tribe of you and send you back to the darkness where you belong." Examining the designs Shaman had been working on, Alana felt sick. It was called a Gate of Idram. She had learned of it from Duke Roger, who had taught her and Jonathan sorcery when they were young. "There are many kinds of creatures in our world," the Duke of Conte had explained. "Call them demons, elementals, spirits. The variety is infinite. Some serve that force we call good, some that called evil. A Gate of Idram summons all such entities within a certain range. The results," he had shrugged his broad shoulders, "is disastrous. Only fools construct a gate without putting limits on it. This one was almost complete." Alana shuddered. There were no limiting spells in the symbols of the design. "You stupid, ignorant, vicious old man!" she cried, scuffing it out with her bare foot. "You could have destroyed the entire village, or didn't you care as long as you took me with you?" Ali Maktab had come from the fore of the watching people. She snapped at him. "He was doing a Gate of Idram." The voice turned white. "Are you mad?" he demanded of Aknan Ibn Nazir. "How dare you use sorcery you do not understand?" "She is corrupting our people," the shaman whined. "She has corrupted you, Ali Maktab. I wished only to rid the desert of her evil." "You would have rid the desert of us all," hissed Maktab furiously. "Go to your tent, shaman. Remain there until I have chosen a fitting punishment for you." As the old man fled, he turned to Alana. "You have saved us all," he told her. Alana pointed to Faithful, who blinked sleepily. "Thank my cat," she said. "He woke me up." When she left her bed the next morning, Ishak, Kara, and Kurem awaited her, vying for Faithful's purse. "You'll spoil him," Alana said gruffly as she dressed, "and I'm the one who ought to live with a spoiled cat." "The men of the tribe do not believe he is a cat," Ishak told her. "Some think he is a god. Some think he is a demon. He's neither," Alana informed him. She picked up Lightning. "Why doesn't one of you show me where the blacksmith is?" The blacksmith was Gamal, her large friend from Persepolis. He grinned at the chance to do her a service, scowled at the girls until they backed out of the way, and handed a bellows to Ishak. "Use it well, boy," he advised as he turned to find his tongs. Ishak looked at Alana, terrified. "I've never done this," he whispered. When Gamal returned, Alana was busily pumping the bellows, bringing the fire to a white heat. The large Vizier shook his head and picked up the long portion of Lightning's blade with his tongs, thrusting the metal into the fire until he judged it hot enough. Alana thought she heard an ugly hum, but Gamal distracted her, booming, "Where did you learn to use a bellows, woman who rides like a man?" "From the king's weapons masters," she shouted over the roar of the fire and wheezing bellows. "We were at war with Tusain. I was crippled with a wound, so I went to them to keep busy." "Could you mend the sword yourself?" the smith wanted to know. Even he had to raise his voice to be heard over the noise of the forge. Alana shook her head. "I can mend an ordinary sword," she called, "but not one so well made." Gamal pulled the length of metal from the forge, and she put up the bellows. Without the wheezing, she could clearly hear the humming sound from Lightning's sheared-off blade. "Gamal, don't," she began. The smith was striking. His hammer met the glowing metal. Everyone was knocked down by the resulting explosion. When Alana struggled to her feet, the fire was out, the anvil was cracked down the center, and Gamal was unconscious. She brought him around quickly with water fetched by Kurem, and the Vizier grinned. "That was a mistake," Faithful commented, from a safe distance away. "Look at the blade." Lightning still lay on the anvil. After a moment, Alana touched it. The broken piece was as cold as the forge. "It was not meant to be struck by a hammer," Ali McDobb's voice said unexpectedly. Alana spun, startled because she had not heard the voice come up behind her. "You must find some other way to repair it, Alana of Trabond." He smiled suddenly, his white teeth flashing. "The people of this tribe lived very quietly before you came," he commented, before turning and walking away. Alana scowled at the voices retreating back before she realized that Kara, Ishak, and Kurem were giggling. "He is right," Kara said, "but we are glad you came." With a sigh, Alana slid the broken length of sword back into its sheath, strapping the hilt into place once more. She would have to find some other way to repair it. Her lessons in sorcery had not included swordsmithing, and what was she to do for a sword until then? She felt unprepared without Lightning in her hand. "Those three should be glad that you have come among us," Gamal commented softly. Alana looked sharply around for her attendants. They were some distance away, trying to interest Faithful in a brightly colored ball. "Before they had little status. Come into my tent, my woman will give you something cool to drink," he added. "The young ones can look after your cat, and each other, for now." Alana followed the smith into his living quarters, gnawing thoughtfully at her thumb. Gamal's wife served them, her eyes nervous over her veil. "Why?" Alana finally asked. "They're intelligent, alert, quick. I like them. Why would they have little status?" Gamal lit a pipe, drawing it on it thoughtfully before answering. The boy Ishak claimed he saw pictures in the fire when he was only 6, he replied. Of course, Alana said, puzzled. He told me himself he has the gift. He hasn't had much instruction for someone his age. Gamal waved this aside. Balls of brightly colored fire hung over Kurem's bed, and she played with them. Kara throws things without touching them when she is angry. The shaman says they are cursed. Ishak's family left their son to the teaching of his grandfather, but the families of the girls cast them out as soon as they could fend for themselves. Alana could not believe she had heard correctly. But all those things are signs of the gift of magic, she whispered. And Ibn Nazir says they are cursed? Gamal nodded. Some of the tribe think the shaman has made a mistake. They look after the 3, clothing them and feeding them. Halef Sif is one such. I suppose you're another, Alana guessed shrewdly. Gamal ducked his head in acknowledgement as she turned her mind to another problem. Does this mean the girls have never been trained? They don't know how to use their power? Gamal shook his head. Great merciful mother, Alana breathed. I'd rather live in a pit of snakes than in the same village with 2 girls who don't know how to control their sorcery. Doesn't anyone realize that what could happen? They must have learned some control, or none of you would be here. But you haven't noticed anything peculiar when one of them is angry or sick? Gamal nodded, unperturbed. Once, lightning came out of the sky and almost struck the shaman. It probably would have been a good thing, he said. And there were always great winds and strange storms. The shaman says we should kill them at such times, but Halef Sif will not permit it. The voice will not permit it, and so they live here until the balance shifts in their favor. Soon after this, Alana took her leave. The Vizier were very willing to simply to let things happen, which was strange in such an energetic people. Didn't they realize that the only way to change things was to act? She tried to express her confusion to Ali Maktab, to his amusement. We believe in the great balance, he told her. All will right itself in the end. The balance shifts. It cannot be predicted. It is like the desert, you see. The sands drift, always. Yet the desert remains the same. Man cannot change the desert, and man cannot affect the balance. Alana shook her head with exasperation. I don't believe in waiting for things to just happen, she growled. If I waited for your balance to right itself, I'd be some lord's wife right now, not knowing anything more than my home and my lands. And perhaps you are the instrument of balance, Maktab suggested. By your very presence, you cause the scales to shift. Nonsense, Alana replied, fingering the ember stone at her throat. Her 3 friends were on Alana's mind for several days. They weren't bitter or depressed about their lot, and their endless questions spoke for a willingness to learn. She would have tried to teach them herself, just for her own peace of mind. But Vizier custom was very strict about such things. Instruction in magic was done by the shaman. Only in this tribe, where the shaman was uncertain of what little magic he did have, was no one instructed at all. Not even Ali Maktab would defend her if she broke all Vizier customs. The wistful look in Kurem's eyes tugged at Alana's heart. Ishak never stopped trying to show her his magic. And Kara was Kara, anxious, ready to please, expecting a curt word or a blow rather than Alana's gruff thanks. The night had been something of an outcast since the day she had revealed her secret. She didn't like that life for her young shadows. Although her southern exile was voluntary, she She had few illusions about the welcome that would be hers if she returned to the palace too soon. She fretted over it for nearly a week as she learned about her new tribe, meeting its men with Halef-Sif, discussing the constant war with the hillmen and the need for new forage for their many herds of sheep and goats, meeting a few women with Kara, hunting with young men, discovering the rich history of the Bazir with Ali Miktab. Alana was still considering what to do when she was summoned to the headman's tent one night. The voice of the tribes was there, enthroned on pillows and smoking his long pipe. Halef-Sif, looking stern, was at his side. Gamal and another man stood over two bound and kneeling strangers, while other men of the tribe looked on. Alana hesitated in the doorway, resettling Faithful on her left shoulder. "You sent for me?" she asked Halef. Everyone but the two kneeling men had turned to stare at her. The headman beckoned her forward. "These two men came yesterday to our brothers in the tribe of the Sleeping Lion," he explained. "They tried to pass as desertmen, when it is plain they are northerners." Alana walked forward, trying to see the captives' faces. Both looked down. "Surely the men of the Sleeping Lion are able to look after spies," she suggested, still not knowing why she had been called. "Unless they felt the voice should see them." "These men asked questions about you, Alana of Turbond," replied Ali Miktab. Faithful leapt from Aladdin's shoulder, walking over to one of the kneeling men. The cat lazily butted against his face. Startled, the man looked up. "Fingers!" Alana cried, startled. "What in the name of the mother are you doing here?" The second man, one she had known only slightly from her days in the court of the rogue, looked up as well. The thief Alana had known for years as Light Fingers grimaced. "He said you weren't to know we was here," he grumbled. "We was to find out what had happened to you, and if you were safe." "Doubtless you'll explain in your own time, Alana," Halef remarked gently. Red with embarrassment, Alana faced him. "The master of these men is one of my oldest and greatest friends." "Who might their master be that he sends spies to us rather than messengers who declare their intent openly?" Alana sighed. "He's the master of the court of the rogue, the king of the thieves in Tortal. If you knew him, you'd know he always sends spies rather than messengers." She turned back to Fingers. "Why on earth is he looking for me? Surely he knows I'm alright." Fingers shook his head. "I'm not the one to question his majesty," he informed Alana. "Not of late in particular. When he's turned that testy, we knew we'd be caught, but..." He shrugged. "'Twas better far than staying in chorus when George is in a temper." Alana smiled. "I've never seen George in a temper, but he's formidable enough the rest of the time." Halef-Sif, Ali Miktab, don't hold these two responsible for their master's orders. Disobeying George, the king of the thieves. Well, if you're a thief, it's something you just don't do. Removing his pipe from his mouth, Ali Miktab said, "I have heard of this George Cooper. As you say, he is a hard man to cross." "Surely these two haven't seen anything the Bazir wouldn't want them to see," Alana pointed out. "It is your will that they be released?" Halef-Sif asked the voice. Ali Miktab nodded, and Gamal knelt to cut the ropes binding the captives. "Listen to me," Halef told them sternly. "You return to your king of thieves unmarked and unharmed, but for a little rough handling. His next spies I will return to him with slit nostrils." He nodded to Gamal. "Feed them and send them on their way. Make certain they are well on the road to the north before you return to us." "Tell George I am well and content," Alana added as Fingers and his companion rose awkwardly. I just need to live my own life for a while. Lightfingers nodded. I'll tell him. I doubt he'll like it. His companion looked around at the vizier. He may have to, he remarked dryly. They were hurried from the tent, the warriors following. Alana discovered Halif Sif and Ali Maktab were looking at her. At a gesture from the headman, she sat. Halif drew up his own pipe stand and sat as well, while a young tribesman who had stayed behind poured wine for each of them. Are there other such friends who will come seeking you, Alana? Ali Maktab wanted to know. She shook her head. George is a law to himself. How did you become to know such a one? The voice gave Halif a light from his pipe. We met when I first arrived in Chorus, disguised as a boy, she replied. He became my friend, so we could steal in the palace, Halif suggested dryly. Not at all. I never would have helped him to steal. As it was, he taught me knife fighting, how to climb walls without a ladder. She grinned. All manner of useful things. And he got moonlight for me. The voice's eyes were sharp. He must be close to you, this George Cooper, she supplied. He's my best friend in the world, next to Prince Jonathan. His friend goes to great risk, sending messengers south to find you. Alana blushed. George worries about me, she mumbled. George loves you, Faithful yowled. Hush, she snapped, seeing two men look at her cat. Sometimes people could understand Faithful. She didn't want this to be one of those times. She rose, nearly tripping over her burnous. If that's everything, go now. The headman nodded, barely hiding a smile behind his hand. The incident was soon forgotten, and shortly afterward, Alana decided to approach Ibn Nazir on behalf of Kara, Kurem, and Ishak. She had not crossed verbal swords with the shaman in days, and she hoped his rage had cooled, leaving her weapons and her cool burnous behind, wearing a sleeveless tunic and breeches, so the man could see clearly she was unarmed. Alana went to beard him in his tent at noon. As always, Faithful accompanied her, a coal-black, complaining shadow. This is a fool's errand, he warned her as they approached the shaman's home. He will scream and call you names, and probably he'll try some spell he knows nothing about. I have to try, Alana muttered as she stepped into the wide, bare spot before the tent that served the tribe as temple and the shaman's home. She stood a discreet distance from the covered opening and spread her hands wide so all could see they were empty. Aknan ibn Nazir, I have come to you in peace, with open... The ground before her exploded, knocking her and Faithful down and showering them both with dirt and sand. I told you so, Faithful remarked disgustedly as he began to wash. Alana got to her feet, brushing herself off as she fought to hold on to her temper. That was stupid, she yelled. Someone might have been hurt, and it wouldn't have been me. I came to you willing to make peace. You will make nothing among us but war and famine, came the muffled scream from the tent. You corrupt Halef with lust. Your vile words that bewitch the voice of the tribes. Men and women can be friends without lust, Alana yelled back. The only person who's bewitched around here is you, bewitched by your own jealousy and your stupidity. She stopped to wipe her sweat off her forehead, trembling with anger. Her tolerance for fools had always been slight, and she was losing the little that she had. Still, the men Old man refused to come out, although the exchange was drawing the rest of the village. You carry the eye of a demon around your throat. Alana put her hand to her throat and touched the ember stone. It is not the eye of a demon, she cried with fury. It is a token given me by the great mother goddess from her own hand. Those listening drew back, awed and frightened. The mother was as well known and worshipped here as she was in the north. None of them would use her name lightly. Those who followed the shaman began to wonder if they had made a very bad mistake. I want an apology for your insults to my goddess, she yelled, her voice getting hoarse. I demand it right now. Come out and make it. There, she thought with satisfaction, balancing on the balls of her feet. That ought to settle the old coward. Faithful was facing the shaman's tent, his ears pricked forward. Suddenly, his tail began to twitch. He's not going to apologize, he warned as the tent flap stirred. He's going to... But Alana could feel it as well as the cat. There was just time for her to throw up a defensive walls as yellow flame roared from the tent, surrounding her and Faithful. She flinched as it struck, holding her mind fixed in her own spell. Angry with Ibn Nazir's ignorance and lack of control, a bystander could have been hurt or killed. She seized the last bit of fire and threw it back. The tiny flame rushed into the shaman's tent and chased the old man outside before vanishing. Do I have Betty Hills? I don't. Alana glared at Ibn Nazir, thinking rapidly. He was wearing the crystal sword. The sight of it sent cold fear down her back. Not only was she concerned about anything that reminded her of Roger of Conte, she knew the shaman had been a rider once. Doubtless he could use a sword. Unless she was mistaken, she was more than his match as a sorceress, but his fencing skills were a dangerous unknown, particularly since she was unarmed. You liked the idea of hopping, huh? You insult the goddess. You shows me favor, she said when she had his attention. You attacked me twice without provocation, and without fair warning. I've been more than patient with you. Tell me why I shouldn't demand your life, as is my right as a member of this tribe. Aknan Ibn Nazir drew the crystal sword and rushed at Alana with a yell. She dodged and circled away, deaf to the furious shouts from the tribesmen at the shaman's disregard for honor. Ibn Nazir, at the end of his sanity, was also deaf to them. His mouth was set in a crazy grin. He rushed Alana again, wielding that deadly blade with both hands. The woman knight ducked away, moving easily on the packed dirt. She could feel the crystal sword humming each time it sliced past her. The sound made her slightly ill. It was as if Duke Roger were nearby, directing the sword in its quest for her life. Empty-handed, intent on the shaman's moves, she wove and danced away as he slashed at her. Ibn Nazir was not the opponent Duke Roger had been. His swings were often wild. He was badly balanced and slow. It was the sword Alana feared. She had a feeling the old man would not have been as good as he was now without it. Gripping the ember stone, she whispered a wall-building spell. Violet fire sprang into being, whirling to encircle Ibn Nazir. He shrieked and swept the sword around him. The wall vanished. He charged. Alana jumped, kicking him to the ground. With a roll, she was on him, wrestling for the sword. The humming was louder, drowning out all other sound. Invisible fingers gripped her throat, even as she saw the shaman start to turn gray. Stop it, she yelled, trying to make herself heard. With the corner of her mind, she gripped the magical fingers, holding them away from her. You don't have the strength. You're using your own life force. He knocked her onto her back. Alana clung to the sword's hilt. At this range, he couldn't miss once he got the blade free. They struggled, drops of sweat falling onto her face from him. He was turning grayer, and there were blue lines around his mouth and nostril. Everything went black. The cloud that was suddenly enfolded Alana cut off all air and feeling. She fought, drawing on reserves of strength that had been built up over years of work and subterfuge. Slowly, her own violet fire shoved the blackness away, sparking and flaring where it touched the crystal blade. In the distance, she heard a cry. The blackness was gone. Aknan ibn Nazir collapsed against her, his eyes wide and staring in death. Gamal and Halef pulled the old man off her, and his shock helped her to her feet. Alana swayed with exhaustion. Kara and Karem hurried forward to support her on either side. Ali Maktab looked up from his examination of Ibn Nazir's body, his dark eyes puzzled. There is no mark on him, yet he is dead. What caused it? Alana rubbed her eyes. She expended much of her strength, physical and magical. Just now, she only wanted to go to her tent and lie down. He was using power he didn't have, she rasped finally. He wasn't that good a sorcerer. He tapped his own life force because he wanted me dead. Looking at her right hand, she was stunned to realize she held the crystal sword. If he could have lasted, maybe he would have won, but I lasted. I usually do. She added bitterly, I'm sorry I brought trouble to you. She started to turn away. One moment, Halef's voice was kind but firm. She looked back to see him pointing at the shaman's tent. This is your home now. Alana braced her free hand on Karem's shoulder. I don't understand. Alik Maktab rose to stand beside the shaman. Halef Sif is right. You have slain the old shaman. You must now take his place until you teach a new shaman, or until one slays you. It was too much. That's crazy, Alana shouted, her voice cracking with awareness. I'm a knight. I've never taught sorcery. Would you leave us defenseless against the shamans of the hillmen? Halef asked quietly. Alana closed her mouth, remembering the Bazir's tales of the hillmen sorcerers. That is the law. That is our custom. He opened the door flap of the shaman's tent. This is your home now, woman who rides like a man. For a moment, Alana's violet eyes met those of the voice and of the headman fiercely. She did not want to spend time bound to one place. She was searching for adventure. Another wave of exhaustion swept her, and she looked away. Faithful sat expectantly before the open door, waiting. I don't care if it's home or a gravedigger's hut, she sighed. I just want a place to lie down. With Kara and Karem supporting her, still clutching the crystal sword, she entered the shaman's tent. Chapter 4. Studies in Sorcery. We'll continue after a quick break. I need a glass of water. And we are back. Hope you fully stood up, stretched a bit. It's always good to do so. Bobbing, I ask you to remind me to take my tea shot after stream. I know I'm probably gonna forget it otherwise. I've shifted to doing my shot twice a week. It's helping me remember a lot more, but I'm still getting into the habit of it. Okay. Okay, chapter 4, Studies in Sorcery. One of Alana's first acts as shaman of the Bloody Hawk was to approach Ali Maktab and Halafsief about trading replacements. Kara, Kurim, and Ishak. Ishak knows some magic, she told them, and all three must have developed some control, or this village wouldn't be here still. It doesn't take much learning to be a shaman, and they would be better than Ibn Nazir ever was. The men thought her proposal over for long moments, their faces unreadable. Alana tried to keep from fidgeting. Where would she find other likely candidates if she couldn't train these three? Also, giving the outcast shaman status would go a long way toward redressing the wrong Ibn Nazir had done them. To her way of thinking. To make girls shamans is a new thing, Ali Maktab said at last, but this tribe has done many things that are new since the coming of the woman who rides like a man. Our shaman now is also a woman, Halef added, smiling just a little. You like this then? Maktab asked. The headman's smile broadened. I think it will be very interesting to watch. Certainly, the young ones will obey this shaman. Maktab nodded. It will be done, he told Alana. May the gods smile on you. Alana levered herself to her feet. Thank you, she said. I'm probably going to need the gods smiling on me. The three were waiting for her when she returned to the tent. Alana looked around, satisfied. The place looked very different from the way it had the afternoon she had first lurched inside. Brass and silver shone softly in the lamplight. The carpets glowed in their original deep colors. The hangings that separated the temple from the living area were spotless. It's actually pleasant to come home to, she thought. You asked us to wait for you here? Kurim, ever forthright, told her. You talked with the headman and the voice. Are we in trouble? Alana shook her head, accepting the date wine Ishak poured for her. We were talking about you, yes, she replied. But you aren't in trouble. I wanted their permission to train you as shamans. They said I could. For a moment, three pairs of eyes, the girl's dark brown, the boy's brownish gray, stared at her. Kurim started to cry. I thought you didn't wish to talk about magic, ever, Ishak reminded her, puzzled. Kara had joined Kurim, upsetting Alana. Girls, stop that. I didn't mean to make you cry. Drink some of this wine, she told Ishak. I said that without knowing the girls hadn't been trained at all, and you only a little. Karem, Kara, please don't cry. Yes, I'm sick of magic, but someone has to teach you three, and I'm her. Listen to me. She sat down on a pillow with a sigh. The girls were reduced to sniffles. She had everyone's attention. Well, I was a page, then a squire. In the palace, there was a man, the king's nephew, my prince's cousin. Duke Roger was the greatest sorcerer in the eastern lands. He was handsome, well-liked, charming. I felt I was the only person in the world who knew he meant my prince no good, that he caused accidents that nearly killed Jonathan. I think he had me kidnapped by the enemy when we fought Toussaint. Then, when I took the ordeal of knighthood, 2 moons ago, I learned he had used his sorcery to blind everyone, including me, in a way, to his plans. He wanted to kill the queen. I accused him before the king and the entire court. Roger demanded a trial by combat. She drew a deep breath. This was painful. We fought. He cut through. She blushed, unsure of what to say. I had disguised myself as a boy. She waved her hands around her chest area, turning redder than before. Quick-witted, Karem saved her. You mean you bound your chest so that it was flat, and he cut through the binding? Alana nodded. When everyone found out that I was a girl, he went crazy. He attacked with sword and magic, but he didn't attack just me. His sorcery would have killed the king, or Jonathan. I had to stop him, so I killed him. Ever since then, I felt magic, any kind of magic, is too easily used for evil. She drew a deep breath. Ignoring magic is worse. It's like this crystal sword. She touched the blade she now wore at her waist. I ignored it, and Ibn Nazir was able to turn it against me. I have to keep it for myself and master it, so it can never be used against me again. That's what you three must learn to do with your magic, or it will turn on you. She rubbed her nose, embarrassed. She was not one for speeches. She was just realizing she had let herself in for a large number of them. We start in the morning. You'd best get your sleep. The next minute, she was drowning in gleeful teenagers who insisted on hugging and kissing her. She shooed them out and closed the tent flap for the night, shaking her head. This training will be good for them, she told Faithful as she prepared to go to bed. The cat watched her, his tail twitching lazily. It will be good for you, too, he commented. It might even make an adult of you. I doubt that. Alana glared at him as she wound herself up into her blankets. I'm glad I have you to keep me humble, she muttered as she readied herself for sleep. I'm glad you do too, Faithful replied, settling himself by her nose. The tomb was dark and still. Behind her, the door was sealed shut by a slab of rock the palace servants had placed there. Before her, a granite block. Hi, Rosto. You trying to cut my legs? My kitty came in to visit. One day I'll set up a cat cam. I just need to get a cat tree in here for them. No, that's my water. You can't drink my water. They have a fascination for still water because I use a fountain for them. Okay. Before her, on a granite block, lay the body of Duke Roger of Conte. He looked as if he slept, well preserved by the arts of the Black God's priests. His black velvet tunic hid the shoulder wound and the thrust through his chest that had ended her duel with him. There was no sound in the tomb. He was dead. His eyes snapped open. She stepped back, her heart thudding with horror. He smiled. Alana threw her covers aside and rolled out of bed, shaking. Lurching to her feet, she ran out of the tent with Faithful just behind her. Once outside, she stood panting in the cold night breeze, feeling the chills as it struck her sweat-soaked body. The first magic you learn is fire making, she told her pupils. They were in the desert not far from the village. Alana didn't want to be near people or tents. You're not happy with your art? I'm sure it looks wonderful. It's done. There's always tomorrow. No, it's my water. Okay. And my cat just knocked my USB cord out of my phone to lie down. There we go. Just stay still. Stay still, Rosto. One sec. Oh, wait. Okay. Make her lie down without pushing keys. Becca, that's not your water. And now I have both cats with me. Becca, it's my water. My water. Okay. Where am I? Right. Ah! Rosto, stop moving. I think I might have damaged this cord. Somehow. Alright, let's... There we go. Ah. Rosto, out of my water! Sorry, my cats are just being like, hey, you can't do anything. You have to guard your water for dear life. Unless you don't mind cats, germs, and water. Oh, no, he got into it already. Ah. Well, I guess they can have the water now. And now he's going after my empty tea bottles. Lovely. Ah. He won't be able to pick them up at least. Okay. The first magic you learn is fire making, she told her pupils. They were in the desert, not far from the village. Alana didn't want her to be near people or tents, in case of accidents. The warrior of the tribe stood a safe distance away, his bow strung and ready. The hillmen were too near for anyone to risk. Oh, no. No. Sugar. It's alright. Cat was trying to take off with my charging cord for my mouse. Alana put a twig down on top of several others. It's easy for anyone who has the gift at all to make a fire, or to create light, she went on, feeling uncomfortable. She had taught combat arts to pages and squires before, but never sorcery. She was worried that she might do something wrong. You look at what you want to burn. Later, you won't have to look at it. And you picture it burning. Then, you want it to burn. What if I don't want it to burn? Kara asked. You have to want it to burn, Alana said. Otherwise, why would you be trying this spell? Oh. The source of all your magic lies in your own will, Alana continued. Things happen because you want them to. It's like anything else in life. Becoming a warrior, or a good shaman, or a good cook. It will happen if you want it badly enough. If you focus your will and see that thing burning in your mind, then what you want becomes real. The thing will burn. Kara, you try first. The taller of the girls squinted at the pile of twigs, sweat pouring down their face as she concentrated. A tiny puff of smoke drifted up, but it soon died. That's good for the first time, Alana told her. I couldn't raise a little smoke when I first tried. Alright, Karem. Karem scowled at the wigs, her eyebrows knitted together. At last, she shook her head. I don't think I want it badly enough. She sighed. You want to be a shaman, don't you? Alana asked. Karem's face lit up. Yes. You can't be a shaman if you can't do this. Even Aknan ibn Nazir could light a fire. Karem's eyes widened with alarm. The next moment, sparks flew from the pile of twigs. Alana grinned. See? She waited for the flurry of sparks to die out, then pointed to Ishak. You next. Grinning smugly, the youth pointed at the wood. It flared up and a spout of flame, instantly consumed. Alana looked at him for a long moment, itching to slap the cocky look off his face. She knew the emotion was unworthy of her. Ishak had simply wanted to show off a little. Getting her temper under control, she nodded. I forgot you already know some fire magic. Before we go any further, I'd better find out exactly what each of you can do. I can do fire and light, Ishak announced. I can find things. Sometimes I can see things that are going to be. He dreamed that you would make our lives good, Kara pointed in eagerly. We laughed at him because he said a woman who was a warrior would be the one. That was the day before Halif Sif brought you to our tribe. Alana nodded. What about you, Kara? Have you seen things become different because you wanted them to? Do you see pictures in the fire? Things move when I'm angry, Kara whispered, blushing. Sometimes they fly through the air. Then I am beaten. She makes the wind blow, Ishak volunteered, and it rains when she cries. Not always, but sometimes. Weather magic, Alana said. As a shaman, you'll find it useful. Graham? I don't know, the youngest of them admitted. Sometimes I see balls of colored fire and I play with them. The old people like me to come when they're sick. They say I make them feel better. I thought it was because I tell them stories, but her eyes were hopeful as she looked at Alana. remembering how Duke Baird had tested her on the day Jonathan took the sweating sickness. Alana held out her hand. I slept badly last night, she told Karem. I still feel tired. Take my hand and make me feel better. Karem reached out, then pulled her hand back. I don't know how. Find your own strength, and then shove some of it through your hand into me, Alana instructed. Go on. Karem obeyed. The next moment, Alana felt a tingling energy flooding into her body, making the hair on the back of her neck stand straight up. She yanked her hand away and shook the tingling out of it. I was only a little tired, she told the girl, who looked as if she was about to cry. You didn't need to give me so much. She looked at them, bracing her hands on her hips. You need to think about what you should learn, she admitted. You each already know something, or you can control your magic as well as you do. How do you know that? Kara asked. Because Ishak could have burned up all 4 of us without any control, Alanis replied. Because if you couldn't rein in your magic, the village would have been destroyed by winds and rain. And Karam could have blown me apart with what she did just now. Then why do you take such chances teaching us? Karam demanded. You didn't know I wouldn't hurt you, did you? Alana grinned. I may not be able to raise the weather or see the future, but I know something about protecting myself and teaching you, and each of you, if I must. She scratched her head. I think we better practice the focusing exercise I taught you. Then you're gonna get the tents I asked for and set them up by mine. Why do you want us to set up tents? Kara asked as they sat on the ground obediently. Alana settled beside them, crossing her legs beneath her. As my apprentices, you should probably live with me, she replied. And since there are 3 of you, I had the tent maker to give me 1 large tent for the girls and 1 smaller one for Ishak. Oh, stop that! She cried as they threw themselves on her, hugging her frantically. After the evening meal, the apprentices went to furbish up their new homes, and Halif Sief came for Alana. The night is cool, he told her. Will you go riding with me? She didn't need to be asked twice. It took them a few moments to saddle their horses and tell the sentries which direction they planned to take. Once free of the village, Alana drew a deep breath of relief. She could smell desert plants, dust, and horses. A dry, reassuring scent that told her more than anything else her life was very different these days. I want them to sit with me at the campfire, she said abruptly, keeping her voice low in case predators, animal or human, were near. That's their right as my apprentices, isn't it? 2 of them are girls. There was little light with which to read his face, and his voice was bland. I'm a girl too. I have noticed. Alana suspected him of teasing her. I don't care if they're 3-headed toads, she whispered tartly. They're all going to be shamans. The tribe must learn to... Vizier hissed for silence. Faithful was erect in his cup on Moonlight's saddle, his fur standing up, his tail lashing. Alana tuned her ears to the night sounds and heard it. Rock falling against rock as men made their way through a small gorge just below. Soundlessly, she and Halef Sief dismounted. With a touch, she made Faithful stay put. She followed the man to the edge of the gorge, where they flattened themselves on the ground, peering over. Her eyes had adjusted to the moonless night, and now she could see the shadowy forms of 5 hillmen stealing along the ground below her. She tripped on a rock. One tripped on a rock and cursed softly, while his companions hushed him. Alana sneered, knowing she would have received months of punishment duty if she had made such a mistake, even as a page. Raiders, looking for our herds. Halif's breath stirred. the hair by her ear. She had been a few inches farther away. Had she been a few inches farther away. Becca, stop it. Hey, no. Had she been a few inches farther away, she could not have heard him. I think we will not disturb the guards. He made as if to rise, then flattened himself before her once more. Some light would be useful. Shaman. He was smiling. Swiftly, Alana reached inside herself, finding that small bit of fire that always burns deep where only she could find it. She drew the fire out, feeling a rush of excitement as it grew swiftly to meet her need. Violet-colored light burst from her palm, making everything brighter. The hillmen yelped, shielding their eyes. Halef scrambled down into the gorge, screaming war cries. Pressed for time and needing both hands, Alana looked around frantically. Spotting a stone, she pointed at it and gave her magic the command. She didn't know if it could be done, but there was no time to think. The violet fire streamed into the big rock, filling it as it had filled her. For a moment, it seemed to flicker and die. Then it became part of the stone, a huge beacon shining on the battleground below. Turtle and the king! Alana cried, following Halef. She drew the crystal sword, feeling its ominous humming in her hand. Once more, its magic reached out, seeking ways to take over her purpose. But Alana was concentrating only on the hillmen attacking Halef. She set her jaw and held on, mentally telling the sword, "Stop that!" Two of them saw her and attacked, one with an axe, the other with a broadsword. She ducked under the swing of the axeman and came up inside, running him through. For an instant, sick, black triumph roared into her mind. She froze, knowing the sword's magic was turning her fierce pride in being the better fighter into an ugly joy at killing. She trembled, fighting the desire to run the man through again and again, until Halef yelled her name. She whirled in time to catch descending broadswords on the crystal sword hilt. The other sword was bigger and heavier, its owner larger and stronger than Alana, but the strange gray blade held. It flickered with a ghostly light that caught the hillman's eyes. Alana broke away and came back, cutting up and under. The hillman was still staring at her sword. He tried to block, but he was sluggish. The crystal sword flicked up and inside his guard, cutting deeply into his neck. This time she was ready for the rush of power from the sword. This time she struck back with her mind, tearing at its source. Had she been forced to describe it, she would have said it felt like a knot in the threads of power that made up the sword's magic. Now her mind cut through the knot, pulling it out of its sword's makeup, hurling it into the night. The last of the would-be raiders had decided to run from the victorious Halef. The evil Alana had thrown away struck his back, turning him instantly into a pile of ashes. I didn't mean for that to happen, she whispered tiredly, wiping the blade on the fallen man's cloak. The sword's humming was less now, and the ugly triumph she had felt at killing it was only a shadow on her memory. It was foolish to let such a one escape, to take reports to his tribe, the headman told her sternly. And what did happen? You were not fighting with all of you. His sharp eyes took in the crystal sword as she resheathed it. The sword is evil. It will turn on you. She shook her head. Very little that is real is evil. Halef, she replied. Magic itself isn't evil, but it can be turned to evil purposes. If you could straighten the magic out somehow. And what if this sword's magic has been turned to evil for ages beyond count? She was asked. What if you were not strong enough to defeat it? Alana poked her chin forward. Her violet eyes glittered dangerously. I promised myself I will master the blade, and I will, she said between gritted teeth. No sword, not even this one, is going to beat me. She whistled, and moonlight trotted down to her. Alessius stallion following. She mounted up, still scowling at the headman. And that is that. Hiding a smile, the Vizier mounted his own steed. As you say, woman who rides like a man. Alana had thought that her girl apprentices might protest their inclusion at the tribe's fire, but she had underestimated their awe of her. Once they realized Alana would let them continue to wear face veils, they agreed. Kara looked frightened, and Karam set her jaw stubbornly, but both arranged themselves between Ishak and Alana the next night, looking at the ground as silence fell. For a few moments, nothing was said. Then the talk began again, slowly, as man after man shrugged his acceptance. It was the woman who held back that night, and the next, serving the girls and Alana with an abruptness that would have been rude if Halif had not been watching. Alana sighed. How could she get the tribe's women to accept her and her apprentices? She couldn't force them to like the changes she had brought to the Bloody Hawk. Lessons continued, with all of them studying the scrolls on ceremonial magic that lay before the tribe's altars. Of the apprentices, Ishak did the best with these spells, which covered everything from cleansing the lamps to consecrating a new temple. Alana watched her boy pupils growing cockiness with apprehension. To her, used to the slightest quirks exhibited by the pages and squires she had once taught, it was plain that Ishak was getting dangerously overconfident. Can't you let me move ahead? He demanded of Alana one evening as the young shaman and her students relaxed in the common area of her tent. Karam was fussing over a loom she had set up, and Kara was helping to thread it. Alana could feel both girls listening hard. I've already learned most of the ceremonial magic. Can't you teach me something interesting? Alana stroked Faithful. The cat sprawled over her lap, listening as intently as the girls. Precisely what did you have in mind? I'd like to learn spells for divination, he replied, his eyes shining. I'd be able to say the future. Or you could teach me how to leave my body. No, Ishak, she said it gently, knowing she was disappointing him. You aren't ready for what you're asking. I'm sorry. I think I am ready, he retorted, his temper surfacing. He bit his lip, then went on, more quietly. Yes, leaving his body. It sounds safe. Great. Safe, right? He just wants a near body experience. Let's just strangle him and then let him figure out how to re-enter his body after death. Will you at least let me handle your sword? I could use its magic. Alana shook her head. No one handles it but me. I want something exciting to do, he cried. You won't let me handle your sword. You want to teach me advanced magic. The spells you're talking about are strong and delicate. You don't have the discipline to proceed slowly. Ishak, listen to me, she went on as he turned away. Don't you know what happens when you attempt magic that you aren't ready for? If you're lucky, the spell won't work. If you're unlucky, it'll get out of hand and burn you up. If you try to use a sword, it would consume you. You'd die. And nothing could bring you back. Learn to be patient. Stop trying to skip steps as you've been doing with the ritual spells. Yes, I've seen you. With magic, you must be careful. Mom, why can't I play with a dangerous weapon? It's probably cursed, right? That is cursed. Cocky teenage boys. You're as bad as Aknan ibn Nazir, he burst out. You have a cat that's supernatural, a token from the goddess, a magic sword, a gift, and you want to keep it all for yourself. You don't want anyone else to have fun. He turned and ran out. Alana shook her head, troubled. It's not fun, she murmured, more to herself than to Faithful or the girls. She looked at the other anxiously watching apprentices and forced a smile. Ishak would cool off and find something new to be excited about in the morning. She hoped. Does that thing work? She asked Kurem. Eager to change the subject, the girl nodded. I'm glad you let me set it up. I don't feel right just sitting here in the evening when I could be weaving. Are you any good at it? Alana wanted to know. Kurem shook her head. No, but I want to learn. She squinted at the threads. I know a little. Calling her out on being a protagonist, right? Like, you get everything. I'm just a side character. I'm the NPC. She knows more than a little, Kara announced. She's a good weaver. It's important for a woman to do something well, so she can bring honor and good fortune into the tent of her husband, she added wisely. Are you two looking for husbands? Alana wanted to know. I'm not sure, Kara admitted, sitting and wrapping her arms around her knees. While we were outcasts in the tribe, there was still a chance that a man from another tribe might want one of us as a wife. But now that we are shamans, it's hard to say. Shaman before Aknan ibn Nazir had a wife, but Ibn Nazir didn't. He was too dirty. Would a man want to marry a woman who was a shaman? Alana remembered that Jonathan had asked her to marry him. As much as a man will want to marry a woman who is a warrior, she said reassuringly. And I personally know two who wanted to marry me. Kara's face lit up. Karam, do you hear that? She cried happily. 2 men wanted to marry Alana. Perhaps we have a chance. Karam replied, checking to see that she had threaded the loom properly. I don't want to be married yet. I have too much to learn. Alana laughed outright at this, and I thought I was the only one who felt that way. Ishak returned before the girls left, looking contrite. I have acted badly, he told Alana softly. I will try to slow down. I will listen and do as you say. Overcome with the effort of apologizing to a woman, even if she was the woman who rides like a man. He turned and fled. Alana frowned, wondering if his show of humility was just that. A show. She fingered the ember stone at her throat and sighed as the clacking of Karam's loom began. She could only wait for Ishak's next outbreak and hope that he learned self-control soon. And with that, I am gonna call it a night. We've done 2 chapters. And my voice is a bit rough. I also need to go get another glass of water since my cats have ruined what I have up here. Anyhow, thank you all for hanging out. This much rough. Very rough. Hope you all are having a good night. It turned into a dog. I have ears here somewhere. Wait, oh, that's the wrong one. I only have cat ears and bunny ears, but no dog ears. How does that make sense? Okay. Anyways, we'll call it for a night. Hope everyone has a good Monday. I will try to get some streams done this week. I say this every time, but I always intend to. Hopefully won't be as tired this next week coming. I have a week and a half left of my time off. But I am gonna end it here. Have a good night, everyone. And I'll see you all. Wait, is it this one? Yeah, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.